Check 1 2.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our Glendale City Council workshop. This meeting is for council members to review and discuss important issues, projects, and future council meeting agenda items. It's a work study session only and allows the council to hear input from city staff. No action will be taken at this workshop, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Glendale Council Workshop Session, November 25th, 2025. The meeting is called to order. Councilmember Turner and Councilmember Baldonegro have notified us that they will not be here. So the remaining council, everyone else is here. So I guess that at this point, there's no sense doing 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's no sense doing a roll call. If you'll Ms. Bauer, if you'll mark Councilmember Turner and Baldonegro excused absence.
Yes, sir.
Item number 1 has been removed from the agenda. So if you would, let's go ahead and introduce item number 2, please.
Downtown Campus Reinvestment Project Art Project Update.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. So here to kick off our first item on the agenda will be Chris Taylor, our Arts and Culture Administrator for Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to share with you a timeline and sequence of events for the Downtown Campus Reinvestment Project Southern Art Wall. I'd like to share with you our items for today, including a timeline of key events from October of 2024 to August of this year, including through to our present day. Some key points from the request for statement of qualifications that was issued, a presentation of the finalist and their concept, as well as next steps for council's consideration. I'd like to begin by sharing with you some key moments that began in October of 2024 when this project was presented to me. In October of 2024, I had a discussion with the Director of Economic Development at the time to discuss strategies for this call. Included was a budget, which I'll elaborate on in just a moment, a timeline, as well as strategies for a national call to artists. Taking a deeper dive into the specific budget portion of the conversation that I had, I was told, and the numbers that were given to me were that approximately, and in keeping with our city's Percent for Art program, approximately $1 million would be transferred from the DCRP project to the city's municipal art fund. Of this $1 million funding, a budget of $600,000 was appropriated for the actual fabrication and installation of the Southern Art Wall project, with the remaining $400,000 to be set aside for any pre-installation needs, as well as any post-accessioning maintenance or upkeep of the art piece itself. Additional discussions on the budget included $10,000 honorariums for each of our semi-finalists to conduct research and come to the city of Glendale to visit the site. In November of 2024, the Arts Commission unanimously recommended an amount of, not to exceed, $600,000 for the fabrication and installation for the DCRP Southern Art Wall. This took us to January of this year, where a request for statement of qualifications went live. We wanted to do a national call to artists using such platforms as the Public Art Exchange and CodaWorks. We also wanted to make sure that artists in the Valley who were familiar with Arizona and the Valley area had the opportunity to apply, so we also included such platforms as the Western States Arts Federation and the Arizona Commission on the Arts. Some key criteria included in the RSOQ included fair treatment for our artists, making sure all artists had the opportunity to apply, making sure that the artwork itself would be suitable for the public, making sure that Glendale's mission and vision were evocative in the piece of art that would be selected, as well as making sure that our artists who applied met specific eligibility criteria. In order to narrow the list of applicants down to a list of semifinalists, a 100% scoring rubric was created, broken down into 4 key phases. 35% would be scored based on the artist's experience, their resume, their portfolio, their background. 35% would also be weighted based on their method of approach. Did they include the city of Glendale in their cover letter? Was their proposal specific to Glendale versus just any generic method? We wanted to take a deep dive into their actual method. 15% would be broken down into their project team, including any subcontractors they may wish to utilize. And 15% was taking into account schedule and budget to make sure that the city of Glendale's needs were taken into consideration. In March, a selection committee was formed to make recommendations of the semifinalists to the Arts Commission. Members of the panel included art and design professionals, subject matter experts, community members, and members of the project design team. In April of this year, we received over 25 submissions from all across the United States. We reached as far north as the New York and New England area, including several applicants with education based out of the Rhode Island School of Design, as well as Harvard University. We reached as far south as Orlando, Florida, and as far west as Seattle, Washington. In May of this year, using the scoring rubric assigned from the procurement department, the selection committee narrowed the field down to 3 semifinalists, including those aforementioned honorariums for each to conduct site visits, to visit Glendale, and conduct their research. In May, the Arts Commission unanimously approved all 3 semifinalists from the selection committee. In June, all 3 semifinalists visited Glendale to conduct research and to visit the site. And in August, we received all concept renderings from all 3 of our semifinalists. I'm pleased to share with you the finalist studio as well as the finalist concept that was decided by the selection committee to be presented to the Arts Commission. Cliff Garton Studio is based out in Venice, California, and they have submitted a design project that they have titled Currents, which I'll elaborate on the title of that design in just a moment. Cliff Garton and his studio team are based out of the Rhode Island School of Design, as well as adjunct work in Harvard University. They have since migrated to Venice, California, where they have created public art projects all across the country, including here in Phoenix and in Scottsdale. Currents itself is a site-specific public art project. The specific artwork itself, the medium, is 3D painted metal. The specific metal that will be used is aluminum that Cliff Garton Studios will use to laser cut into the aluminum to create the piece that you see before you. For care and maintenance of this piece of work to prevent UV exposure, any kind of pollution along downtown Glendale Avenue, or any kind of weather storms or any kind of contingencies, the majority of the piece will be wrapped in a protective printed vinyl film to protect from those specific elements. Those pieces that are not able to be protected by the vinyl film will be painted using a strong and durable exterior paint coating, similar to paint and vinyl that is used to protect our current day vehicles from similar elements. This is meant to be distinctive mountain topography, including Thunderbird Conservation Park, as well as the surrounding Estrella mountainside. This project will take approximately 13 to 16 months to complete. I would be very excited to work with you on a ribbon cutting or some type of ceremony that would take place in the spring of 2027. This project is scheduled to come in at that not to exceed $600,000 budget. Included in that is 3% for contingencies. Any insurance needs, any damage, anything that would happen to the piece prior to the city accessioning it into its public art collection would be covered by Cliff Garton Studios during the 13 to 16-month fabrication process. Once the piece is officially accessioned into the city's public art collection, that aforementioned $400,000 has been set aside for any short-term needs while the city researches any long-term options it may wish to pursue to care for the piece beyond the care that Cliff Garton Studios will already be taking into the piece. This could include a lifetime insurance policy, annual touch-ups with Cliff Garton Studios themselves. The city's workforce may wish to undertake this, or we could hire subcontractors. We have several options we can pursue long-term while we have the money set aside for our short-term needs. In August of this year, the Arts Commission unanimously recommended both the finalist and an alternate for City Council's consideration. At this time, the Arts Commission followed the procedures for accessioning this piece into the public art collection. While that couldn't be officially done as the piece has not been fabricated or installed, the Arts Commission at this time wanted to lay a foundation for the Arts Commission that will be serving in the spring of 2027. That way, at that time, that Arts Commission can look back on this present moment and say, yes, I can see in the Arts Commission minutes where this Arts Commission followed those procedures, unofficially checked those boxes so that we will be good to go in the spring of 2027 for an official accessioning. This agreement with Cliff Garton Studios is on the agenda for this evening's voting meeting for council consideration of approval. And finally, if at any point the city or the artist were unable to complete the project, the selection committee did select an alternate studio as well as an alternate concept for your consideration. Should that become necessary, I would be more than happy to return here to give you a breakdown of the alternate concept as I've given you a breakdown of the finalist concept. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Guzman.
Yes, Mayor. Where do I start?
Beginning.
I am not happy with this project. I don't know a better way of saying it other than I don't like the way it looks. I don't think it represents the city of Glendale. I would have liked to have the option of maybe a digital sign where the city would benefit by, we could put with a digital sign all kinds of different arts at different times. We could use it to post different events. There's a huge variety of things that we could do with a digital sign. I don't know if you're familiar with the Via Resort. They have one out at their resort. It's amazing. They post all kinds of things on it. I believe the city would benefit largely from that. The other question too is, if the finalists were decided in August, I believe is what you said, I didn't see any other renderings or nothing was brought to the council where we could actually see pictures or anything. Did you guys have that?
Mayor and Council, yes, in August of 2025, renderings of all 3 semifinalists were given to the Arts Commission to make its recommendation to City Council, and the Arts Commission made those recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't her question. That wasn't her question. She wanted to know, we haven't seen anything
Yeah,
else.
we didn't see anything. I'm sorry,
All
go
we've
ahead.
seen was just what you're showing us right now. I believe that was your question.
Yeah, that is.
Mayor and Council, we followed the procedures of the RSOQ that was put together by the Procurement Department, including the submissions going to the Selection Committee, the Selection Committee giving those suggestions to the Arts Commission, and the Arts Commission making its recommendations to City Council.
Yeah, but they're just making the recommendation right now. They didn't bring us a recommendation of any of the other artists. We haven't seen anything else other than this. Is that correct?
Mayor, Council, I can't speak to what Council has or has not seen. I can only follow the procedures that were given to me by the RSOQ, which was to take these to the Selection Committee. They took those to the Arts Commission, and the Arts Commission brought these to City Council.
But you are the Arts Commission, aren't you? Are you part of it?
I am the liaison to the Arts Commission.
Okay.
So let me ask a question. Maybe this might help. The very last page, you have two other things here, and you said if they could not complete the project, there's the alternate. That's two different companies or one other company?
Mayor and Council, this alternate is a completely different studio with a completely different concept.
Okay, so this was like choice number 2 for the Arts Commission.
Mayor, Council, that is correct.
Okay, so we're able to see it, the second, but we don't know what the third would be.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead and.
Okay, I would have liked to have seen something that represented the city of Glendale. I don't follow the pictures of how you have the city at the bottom. Either way, we were not presented with any other pictures other than this, and I can't see spending over $500,000 on a project that I don't believe is going to represent the city of Glendale. Like I said, I would like to have seen some type of a digital sign. I won't be voting for this. I don't support it.
Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me just say, I understand art is incredibly subjective. So let's just get that out of the way from the very beginning. And so, one person's trash is another person's masterpiece. I understand that. But this is going to be a huge symbol for our city. And I personally do not want to hang something controversial that's going to be a symbol for our city for many years to come. And I was speaking earlier today, I mean, one of the issues I have, and I know I'm not the only person who feels this way, is that why didn't the RFP procure or require artists in our local economy and help artists in our own local economy? Does anybody, I know, Mr. Bailey, I had spoken briefly with you, historically and legally, have we done that in the past where we say this is a pretty big get for an art studio. And I personally would prefer to keep this money in our local arts community, maybe not necessarily Glendale, but in the local arts community. But we weren't really brought into any of this conversation of, moving forward, how we were going to do this. Mr. Bailey.
There's a lot of statements and a lot of questions in there. A couple of things. From a matter of practice, we generally do not provide preference for local procurement. There's some laws that govern that. So do we, though, at times focus on acquiring local art? Yes, we do, but that's like a different circumstance. This, the way this was drafted, it included local, but also national as well. So local had the opportunity to respond just as the national did. But so there's that element. This somewhat of a unique process because it's coming to you after a decision has been made, which is a little unique. What I think most importantly, just from a legal perspective, is to remind you is that it's ultimately your decision whether or not you want to have this art. If you want more information, if you want more input, this is your opportunity to ask for it, and then staff and the Arts Commission can provide that, because the Arts Commission is your commission.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Can I continue, Mayor? So, I mean, this is a real statement piece. What are the dimensions of this piece? Do you have that information?
Mayor, Council, while I don't have the specific dimensions, I can gather that information and get those dimensions to you.
I mean, it's a real statement piece, and it's making a big statement about the city of Glendale. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I mean, I know that's how art is. So I know I told Councilmember Guzman what I would like to have seen was something more along the lines of what the artwork is at the Heroes Park Library, where it depicts kind of the history and the future of the city of Glendale, both. I don't know if you're familiar with that or if you've seen that artwork that was at the Heroes Park Library, but I thought that really was a good representation of the city's past and the city's future. I thought the art was really well done there. I think it's a mosaic, if I'm not mistaken. I just don't want to move forward with something that's going to be really controversial, because it's controversial with the council. I would imagine it's going to be controversial with residents. That's my fear. I would like to say, though, as far as the digital, I mean, this is art, and that's something different, but we could have a discussion about putting some digital reader boards somewhere out along Glendale Avenue to, make announcements about things happening in the city. We could accomplish that without, I think, hanging it on the building. But I don't, and I've heard coming up to this that it had been controversial. We obviously can't have the discussion until we're in public, because that's the way open meeting law works. But I hesitate to move ahead with something that is controversial among just a few of us, and thinking that it's probably going to be very controversial among residents, and it is almost $1 million investment. So that's all I have to say right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor. First of all, thank you to the artist who submitted, and thank you to the Arts Commission for your recommendation. As the council member from the Cactus District, I'm looking at the fiscal impact of this project. Not only is it the installation and the insurance that could be up to $1 million, but also the maintenance of this. As we heard, the different types of materials that exist, we know that there's weather elements, we know that there's dust, we know that there's animals, we know that there's a lot of different things in order to maintain this. And so I cannot support us moving forward with this project, and I suggest something more simpler is to continue the DCRP building with putting windows there, and we can decide in the future if we want to put something there. We could even do something as simple as putting a Glendale G logo on the entire side of the building. And it'll be, hopefully cheaper, hopefully more simpler to maintain. But we have to really understand the fiscal impacts. We just had Santan Valley incorporate, and now that's part of our state shared revenue that we need to split within all of the cities. We also have other things coming up in the future that we need to plan for. And so in order for us to be fiscally responsible and to make sure that we get this project done, I am not going to support moving forward with this, and I'm going to ask that the council vote no tonight, and that we consider moving forward with just finishing that side of the building with glass panels, and that we table the idea for art in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a budget for our Arts Commission, or for arts in the city. Is this coming out of that city budget for arts? The money's already there?
Mayor, Council, yes, that is correct. In keeping with our Percent for Art program, approximately $1 million from the DCRP project will be transferred into the city's municipal arts fund, and we used that number as an estimate to create our budget for this project.
Okay, so it's not part of what was allocated from other sources to go into the arts fund. This was an add-on?
Correct. This was specific to this project.
Okay. One thing that I think I've been approached many times by residents that we are lacking as a city in our arts. We don't support it as well as perhaps we could or should. We have money in the arts program that we're looking at having a long-term arts program. My personal opinion is that we need to step up a little bit in our arts program, and I think we're in the process of doing that. I think this is one of those areas where that's what we're doing, is we're stepping up, we're trying to create art. And I'm not talking about this particular art. I personally don't have any problems with it as far as the way it looks. I'm not an artist, and so I don't judge it real well, perhaps, but I look at it and your description of what it is, the purpose of it, how it came about, I see that and I say, okay, I see what they're trying to do here and what they're trying to accomplish with art. Art is very subjective, I get that, but for me personally, I don't have a problem with this piece of art, but I do believe that we need to not just cancel it. Maybe we need to rethink how we are going to do it. But I think having art in the area of our new building is appropriate, and I think desired by our residents. So I could support it, but at the same time, if the council decision is to rethink it, we could do that. I mean, we have the money that has been allocated. It's not like we're taking it away from somewhere else. It's already allocated. We voted on it for this project. So I think we should proceed with some sort of arts program on the building. And if the rest of the council wants to change that, I would be open to those suggestions. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Is this intended, so this is intended to be the art for the downtown campus, is that right? At least on the City Hall portion of the campus?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, yes, the idea and the impetus behind this project would be to serve as a city center and a focal point of arts and culture in our community vis-a-vis the DCRP itself.
This is the first time I was aware that all of the money was going to be spent on a single piece of art until I saw this agendized and what the amount was. I thought there would be art throughout the downtown campus rather than just at the end of the day, $1 million facing Glendale Avenue, where really you can only see it from your car mostly. I mean, most people are going to be operating within, the backside where the amphitheater and the park, and that's where it intended to be, where people are going to be congregating and where they would see the art, when this isn't even going to be visible from there. So I wish there had been more conversation with the council on where and what we would have liked to have seen. We've had lots of conversations on the downtown campus, but we've never had a conversation that the only piece of art was going to be invisible from the actual campus itself. That I kind of have a problem with. So I thought we were going to have other art featured around on the campus, and I didn't know that until I saw this. So I wish that had been part of the discussion that the council had an opportunity to weigh into. I agree with Councilmember Melner that, we have kind of fallen behind in art, but at least from the perspective of this being the single only piece of art that's being funded with this $1 million from the downtown campus, that's going to be not even viewable from the campus, at least from my perspective, is kind of missing the mark of what I was hoping to see. I would rather see, a couple $100,000 pieces sprinkled out throughout the campus, and if we wanted to put something on the building, something on a smaller scale that wouldn't be so expensive, because it's not going to be visible from the campus. I mean, that to me seems kind of tragic. Whether even if for people who love this piece of art, and like I said, I don't love it, I don't hate it, it's fine. But for people who love it, they'd have to go literally all the way out onto Glendale Avenue to see it, right? And then I guess look up at it. It's because you don't have the dimensions, but based on the picture, it looks like it's going to be really large. 1, 2, 3, basically the whole side of the building. So it probably would look better from further away, is what I'm trying to say. A piece of art this large, generally, like how far away are you going to have to be from it to actually see it? Not right next to it, where you would have to be on the sidewalk. Maybe across the street you would get a good view, but that's not what I envisioned for the downtown art campus. So we're missing 2 people on the dais today also. I don't know whether we want to, I mean, I guess we can figure out what we're going to do tonight, whether we're going to table it or vote on it, whatever we do. But I'm not to a yes right now myself. I'm just going to put that out there. Thank you, Mayor.
I've got, I'll get to you in a minute. I've got some of my own thoughts. I guess the very first thing that I'd like to point out is I do remember every rendition that we've seen on the elevation of this always had some sort of art thing on the side. I remember that from the very first one we got. So I always knew there was going to be something there. I didn't know what it was going to be. So I'm not surprised at the location. I do have a major problem. I did hear you say that the pieces are going to be covered with vinyl, and if they're unable to cover them with vinyl, then they're going to paint them. Paint and vinyl doesn't work here over a long period of time. It just doesn't, unless it's powder coated for one. You can get several years out of powder coating, but vinyl, all you got to do is look at cars that got wrapped 5-6 years ago, and they fade really bad. Really bad. I hadn't even thought of the video portion, but as everybody was talking, I kept thinking to myself, when we had our old city hall and we'd walk through it, we had pieces of art that local people had produced. The city ended up in possession of them, all sorts of different types of art. You can go around to different locations. The bank across the street from our city hall has old pictures of downtown Glendale. I really like that video idea. If that video board, if half of it or all of it or a portion of it, or if it continually keeps changing, where you could have different art all the time, or maybe something that lasts for 5 minutes, then you switch it to something else, and then a message board, Luke Air Force Base having their air show, and then you actually have pictures of art of a message board, but again, by resort, and we're all kind of going off of that because that's all we have in our area. From a distance, some of that is amazingly clear. And I think that you could have some really great art because of that. I think it would be a great way to tell people what's going on. I think it would be a great way to tell people of events coming up right at City Hall. On a message board like that, you could split that. You could have half of it art and half of it the message board. You could alternate it back and forth. For Christmas, you could have all sorts of, I mean, to me, it just seemed like it would be so much more available to so many more people. It's still going to have maintenance, still going to have those issues that they all do, but if they're setting, $400,000 aside for maintenance, why not set $400,000 aside for maintenance on a really high quality LED board that could be used for multiple things, help promote Glendale. I see old pictures of Glendale. There's one to the right of what we're all looking at right now. That could be part of that art. You could show Glendale then, Glendale today, or there's just so many different options available. I would think that maybe what we should consider is tabling this tonight, and then when we get our other 2 council members to come back, trying to give some actual direction to the Arts Commission. The other thing that I really have a big problem with is spending that kind of money and sending it to California. Now, I don't know how many people from Arizona put a project up. I don't know if there was anybody even in the placing, or I don't know. It just seems a horrible thing to take our taxpayers' money and send it to California. I just, I don't hate California. That's sort of the way I am. I'd rather keep it at home as much as possible. But I do think that we have other options that could be better. And I know that the Arts Commission folks probably are going to be upset with this, but they are our commission, and we do ask them for recommendations. Just because they recommend something doesn't mean that we're all going to fall in love with it and approve it. That does happen occasionally, but sometimes it doesn't happen too. So I hope the Arts Commission isn't totally upset, but I would ask, when we can't do that today. We have to do that tonight, correct?
Mm-hmm. Table it,
Table
yes.
the event, Mr. Bailey. Yeah. So,
Mayor, yes.
So I would ask that maybe this afternoon that or this evening when we go into our regular voting meeting, that somebody makes that motion and we ask to table it, not to stop it completely, but just to try to get a different view at it, a different look. Anybody else want to
Yes.
speak?
Yeah,
Go
that was my whole concern, is that we need to think this a little bit more through, and the idea of splitting the digital, I think that's a great idea. The city would benefit greatly from that. So I agree with you, Mayor.
Anyone else?
Mayor?
Yes, sir. I did. I'm sorry, you are next. Go ahead.
So a lot of questions. So the size of the panel is approximately 17 feet wide by 50 feet high. Can we go to slide number 3, please? So for the past more than 3 years, whenever we've showed what the Holly Street and what the design team has come up with, this is one of the images that we've used. And we didn't use this artwork, we didn't give it to the artist, but this was what has been shown. And this is what staff came up with. And so we showed a very, as we looked and got the council to get on board with the project, we showed a 50-foot high, 17-foot wide panel with vibrant colors in an abstract form. And so from the very, very beginning, that's kind of what messaging we had shown as the possibilities. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go that route, but I just want to be consistent that this is not something that was kind of changed last minute. It really started from the very early renditions of the building, that we would have art facing towards the Glendale Avenue, because it works out mechanically where we have our mechanicals. We can't put windows into that area because of what's behind those windows. So you obviously you wouldn't want a window staring into mechanical areas or into other types of materials. So that's the first part. The second part, in terms of the digital sign, originally we had talked about that. Again, this council's been very specific about staying to within a project budget. We cannot use arts funds. Our 1% for the arts money does not qualify to purchase things like digital displays. So what we wanted to do was, right now, our current fund balance in the arts budget is slightly more than $4.6 million. And if you recall, in our last 2 budget cycles, the council has really encouraged staff to find ways to get that money back into use. There's been discussions of even transferring money that was borrowed, I think, back in 2014, 15 range.
Way before that.
Out of the arts fund?
It was way before that.
Okay, before my time.
Mine too.
And so there's been a lot of discussion about trying to get that. And so our arts team has been trying to work to try to implement, more projects. Now, with regards to other art installation, if you recall, the area on the very first floor, the visibility area, we also have programmed for other art of smaller scale, obviously, but nothing precludes there to be other art installations throughout the Murphy Park and downtown campus. So I wouldn't look at this as being your only shot at having art as part of the campus. It is roughly a $600,000 item out of about a $4.6 million arts budget that can only be used for arts projects. So the challenge would become then, if we try to do something different with the service, which the project team can certainly come up with something, we're taking money out of general fund to do that. We cannot use the same funding source that is funding this particular project. And then I'll just end with, I'm from Tacoma, Washington. And one of the things when I came down here that the council was very proud about was that one of the people who's very famous in my community has a major art installation in our library, and that's the Chihuly, which is probably today worth several $1 million, but that was money that was spent by the city, I believe, I assume purchased it from the area. So we didn't see the limitation on being just local artists, because there are not many artists that have had experience of affixing a 50-foot by 17-foot panel with the weight conditions, the wind factors, the shear loads, all the things that have to be taken into consideration. The pool isn't as large as you might think in terms of local artists. And so again, when we put it out as trying to find the best art for our community, and so that's what drove it. But I just want to say that this is what's been proposed. Caught me a little bit off guard because it was very close to what we've shown from day one. But that's for the new council members. This is kind of one of the images we've used all along as showing art facing onto Glendale Avenue, try to capture the eye, bring a little bit of color to a relatively monochromatic building, which has just really a fairly straightforward, simple color palette on it. But we can certainly set this aside and continue the conversation. I would encourage each of you, I believe you have representative on the Arts Commission, and so we can. I think it's more than appropriate to engage with them. But we can certainly come back after you pull it tonight and come back with some alternative approaches.
Thank you, Mayor. And I mean, yeah, I agree that this has been presented to us as in the renditions that we've seen, that there was but I never knew that the piece of art was going to consume the entire project. So, I mean, obviously we have other arts money, but any other arts money we spend on the downtown campus is money we can't spend on other arts projects around the city. So I just, until this was noticed and posted, I didn't realize, and you stated that this is going to consume the entire appropriation that is basically the money. It's the percentage of money we're supposed to contribute to the arts funds based on the cost of construction for the downtown campus. So I think the council there should have at least been a discussion with the council that the idea was that we were going to get a single piece of art for this price tag. I don't know how much was paid for the Chihuly. It was way before my time. I think they got a pretty good deal on it. I think it was before he became what has become. And I'd like to, if I could, just ask Mr. Bailey about, like, I know that there's digital art has become quite popular. Digital art is an art form. So, I mean, depending on the project, but a digital art project, could that be an eligible use of funds for the arts funds?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I think you answered your own question of sorts, and it's dependent on what the project is. But I could probably safely say that a digital display that's intended to do ads, unless there's some retro type ad you're displaying, probably is not deemed public art. Our code doesn't define it, but if there's a need for a determination, I'd encourage you to send that to your arts. That's why you have an arts board. Send it to the art board.
All right, thank you. One more question, Mayor, if I could. This is, I mean, I think everybody that lives here in Arizona knows, especially the south-facing side of buildings take a real beating as far as sun and heat and all of that. And with what the mayor said about paint and vinyl, has this been vetted for longevity? For, like, how is it going to last? Is the vinyl going to peel? Is the paint going to peel? Like, who has vetted this to see, like, how is this going to hold up with the southern-facing exposure?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, Cliff Garden Studios has done public art projects in Phoenix and Scottsdale, and to your point, they're well aware of the UV, radiation, heat, all of those concerns that would take into place. And in their proposal, specifically pages 64 to 66, they do discuss the materials overview and how the materials that they would be used to combat those contingencies. In addition to that, we had allocated up to, but not having to use exactly $400,000 for any kind of post-accessioning insurance or maintenance needs. While I can't comment directly on exactly how Cliff Garden Studios would tackle that project, they are familiar with the heating elements here in Arizona. They have worked on art projects in the past that, to this day, from their inceptions in Phoenix and Scottsdale, do still remain preserved and maintained.
Helps. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Mayor, Council, he's basically covered what we've learned about the project as well from their point of view of using those materials, especially here in the southwestern region. I did want to add, though, one element that, should this be paused, that the building still will be complete. That facade will still have a skin on the building, because it was mentioned about, could it be glass or something else. there will be a skin assembly to this facade in lieu of anything being attached to it in the interim. So we won't lose anything from a thermal value to the building or anything like that. So while this is, if this goes on pause for a bit for discussion, we will still complete the design, the exterior skin design of the building.
All right. So I'd like to clarify a couple things.
I was going to ask if
It's been
the
stated
artist is
that
warranting
this
it.
faces
We have to
south
buy the
on
insurance.
Glendale Avenue. Actually faces east, but can be seen from Glendale Avenue if you're westbound, correct?
Mayor and council, in this particular elevation that you see, that is due south. So the building is in an angle. It has southwest exposure. It has northeastern exposure. The two facades that are on the end, this one and the one directly opposite, directly faces north. So that's why you see mostly this, what we call the curtain wall skin design on the building. You will see this as you drive on Grand Avenue. You'll see it more fully from that angle as well too. So you will get quite a bit of sun exposure that was mentioned earlier from this facade.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to try to defend it. You just made it worse.
Yeah, the building is actually, if you looked at north being straight up, south, east, west, considering the building is rotated slightly to the southeast. So this particular facade that you see in front is due south.
Yeah.
But when you drive by on Glendale Avenue, you get more of the western facade with it at the same time.
Yeah. So, everything I do, I always tell stories. That's what I do.
Yeah.
On my RV, I actually had a very expensive light on the roof that I keep parked underneath an awning, and just the sun in the morning from about, well, when the sun comes up till normally around 10 o'clock, the light shines, the sun shines on this light, and then after that it's fully, completely out of the sun. A recent trip that I had, the light fell off because the sun had cooked plastic to the point, and this is thick plastic, to the point where it just shattered. This is more exposed than that particular light on my RV. Completely more exposed. I do have a lot of experience with manufacturing trailers, and the only way we could get our trailer paint to last over a decade or longer was powder coating. Very, very expensive and adds a lot of weight to it. If the paint is not powder coated, which I know is going to jack the price up through the roof, and then it's hard to attach after you do it, plus the fact that they said it was aluminum, I know vinyl's not going to hold. I already know that. We've got some Glendale Works vehicles that are in desperate need of being rewrapped right now, and those vehicles are not 10 years old. So I think it's got some problems. I think there's some things that have to be worked out. I'm not in love with it. I do believe the digital video could be accepted, and then again, who makes that decision? Is that a decision made by the council? So, if the council said, hey, this is the way we want to go, and I certainly don't know why we couldn't have a portion of that where we could promote things going on at City Hall. It only seemed like it would make sense, but I would hope that tonight we would table this and then bring it back for better, more thoughtful discussion.
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. I do have one more question. So I want to make sure I have a clear understanding. So there is no warranty then, right? I mean, the 400,000 is our money for preservation and protection and whatever. But as far as the artist studio, they're not providing any kind of guarantee that it's going to last any certain period of time before the sun damages it. Is that correct?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, just to elaborate on that question a little bit, any needs pre-accessioning would be covered by Cliff Garden Studios. Once the piece became officially accessioned into the city's public art collection, it would be the city's responsibility to ensure and maintain it. I can say, quoting page 65 of Cliff Garden's proposal, quote, "The manufacturer guarantees the product's color and vibrancy for years. While those specific years are not in this proposal, those words are mentioned in page 65 of his proposal."
Mayor?
Were you finished?
Yes, so I like as much information as possible, so can the council please receive this proposal, because you keep referencing page 65, but we didn't have it in our agenda, in our packet, or could we get that, please?
Mayor, Council, it'd be my pleasure to provide that to you.
Okay, moving on.
I had one last question.
One more, okay.
Is this piece of art, or any piece of art that's going to go on there, is it completely flat? Does it have ridges, or, I mean,
Mayor, Council, this specific piece of aluminum would be laser cut into the unfinished piece to create ridges and dimensions in the finished piece to give it a three-dimensional feel. We do not, if we choose to pursue other possible options, we can do 2D, we can do 3D, based on whatever the Arts Commission or the Selection Committee or City Council would choose to use.
the reason why I ask is because, you know, a bird could make a nest in there, could it not?
Mayor, Council, that is a possibility.
Okay.
Mayor, Council, yes, there was also a concern. We wanted to make sure that there's a flat portion to the sculpture, there, art piece that would be attached to the building, but there will be relief to it. It could vary anywhere from 4 to 10 inches, I believe, is what they had stated before. So it's going to have some contours to it. It won't be perfectly flat.
Mayor, one last question.
Go ahead.
Could essentially one of these 3D pieces fall and hit somebody?
That would hurt.
Mayor, Council, I can't comment on that and how they would assemble the piece itself.
Thank you.
All right, we beat this one, so, item 3.
Council item of special interest, state of trees in the city.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report on the next two items is Parab Adabala, Director of Transportation, and he'll be joined by John Kennedy, our Director of Parks and Recreation, on the second item.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to present to you the state of trees in the city of Glendale. This item started off as a council item of special interest by Councilmember Bart Turner. Councilmember Turner is traveling and has been briefed on this subject and was comfortable moving forward with this presentation today. This item was to address Glendale's investments in planting and maintenance of trees. The city has a significant number of trees in the city-owned park facilities and street right-of-way. With a total of 39,400 trees, the transportation right-of-way has 18,000 trees, and the parks facilities have 11,400 trees. These numbers change regularly as new trees are added to the inventory and some of the existing trees are lost to events or disease. Approximately 3,255 trees have been lost due to various reasons over the past 5 years. Over the past 5 years, 2,571 new trees have been planted. This includes 819 trees with the new Heroes Park facility. The overall funding for planting trees, not including other plant material and irrigation to ensure the sustainability of green infrastructure, is $391,970. As part of these efforts, 23.5 miles of irrigation has also been updated. This includes repairing where feasible and replacing in other locations. Some of the reasons for the loss of trees is challenging environment where they are located. These include narrow landscaped areas between paved and built environments, crashes that damage the plant material and the irrigation infrastructure, pruning of trees to maintain a safe traffic condition, disease and other environmental factors such as storm events, extreme heat, and drought conditions in recent years.
This past year, the city was honored with its 30th consecutive Tree City USA designation. To be designated as a Tree City USA, the city needs to reach 4 main standards. Those being have a tree board or department, which the Parks and Recreation Department fulfills that responsibility. That the community has a tree ordinance, so we have an urban forestry tree ordinance within Chapter 19. The entire community forestry program should be at least $2 per capita, which we meet, as well as we hold an Arbor Day observation and proclamation. So each April on Arbor Day, multiple city departments come together. We choose a city park near an elementary school where we engage that local elementary school to include some of their either 3rd or 5th grade class and have some curriculum around Arbor Day. And that celebration is held each April on Arbor Day. Being a Tree City USA is only 3,600 cities within the city, so that's only about 18% of the cities, or in the country, excuse me. So it's only about 18% of the cities within the U.S. achieve Tree City USA designation.
On this slide, you'll note Glendale's green cover stands at 7%, which is ahead of quite a few of our peer jurisdictions that include Tempe, Phoenix, Mesa, Peoria, Gilbert, and the county. You'll also observe that there are a couple of cities that are ahead of Glendale in their urban forest inventory, and those are Chandler and Scottsdale. In the past couple of years, mayor and council have recognized the need for improved green infrastructure. Leadership and staff presented plans and made recommendations to improve the state of green infrastructure in the city. We would like to thank the mayor and council for their support to staff in implementing these plans. While these plans are to be implemented over multiple years, staff is proud of the steady progress being made towards the goal of better green infrastructure in the city. With that, John and I will be happy to take any questions you may have.
I have a question. Just recently in the Yucca District, we had 5 dead trees on Bethany Home Road. You guys came and took care of them. Will they be replaced, or you just don't have a tree there anymore?
Mayor and council, yes, those trees will be replaced. Right now, what we are doing is we are taking down the dead trees, and we are doing these projects that you'll see in the next presentation. So we are doing the projects, and in the project miles, we are trying to redo, replace trees that were lost, redo the irrigation, plant shrubs. And then you'll see in the later part of the 7-year plan that we presented to council, our only purpose is to go replace trees throughout the city where they were lost. So if those happen to be within the project areas now, we'll replace them. And if there's an opportunity for us to, we'll replace those in place between now and the next 2 years. But after that, which will be the last 3 years of the plan, all we'll be doing is replacing trees that were lost.
Okay. I know you guys completed one of your projects, I believe it was between 75th and 67th Avenue on Bethany. You planted a bunch of, yeah, it looks really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a clarification, palm trees are included in the overall definition of trees, correct?
Mayor and Council, that is correct.
Thank you. While I do appreciate that we do have the designation as a tree city, the perception from the Cactus District residents that I've talked to is that Glendale is the city of dead trees. So I wanted to know that we've lost 3,255 in the past 5 years for various reasons. What are the future goals of our tree program? Will there be needing any additional funding in the future or any staff needs?
So Mayor and Council, at this point, we do not see the need for additional funding or staff. We did present a plan in January of 2023. So without going in too much on the next presentation, we presented a 7-year plan. And we are in year 3 of the 7-year plan. Like I said, after year 4, we'll be doing significant tree planting. Not that we are not doing it right now, but we are doing it as part of projects. At that point, it'll just be tree planting, filling the gaps where we have them. As part of the plan, we identified that we would reach 22,000 trees. We are at about 18,000 today, approximately. We are doing a new inventory right now, so we'll have a better understanding of what the number is. We could be over 18,000 at this point, but the plan was to bring our tree count in the right of way to 22,000 in 2030.
Just one more follow-up, Mr. Mayor. How many grants have we applied for to help us fund the tree program, or how many grants are we anticipating to apply for in the future?
Mayor and council, we have secured $3.8 million in grants. And again, that's in the, I was going to mention these details in the next presentation, but I think I also listed this in the slide number, on the slide here, slide number 2. So the $3.8 million came to us in a couple different packages. The first 800,000, roughly speaking, came from a state legislative grant. And the second, the remaining $3 million came from a WIFA grant.
Thank you, Mayor.
Let me ask you a question before we go to you. On slide number 5, you have peer cities, urban forest inventory, and then you have a whole bunch of cities listed with percentages. What does that mean? What do the percentages mean? Does that mean Tempe does a better job than us or not as good a job of it? But what is
The high, Mayor, sorry, Mayor. Mayor and council, the higher the number, the better it is.
Okay.
So you're there. It's basically a study done by the Department of Forestry, and they're identifying how much of the city has tree cover.
Okay. All right. That's good. We'll go to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So on slide 2, the 819 trees at Harold's Park, those were not replacement, those were new trees, right? Okay, so that puts us about 1,500 trees short from what we've lost in the past 5 years if you take that 819 out of the new trees. So, and there's going to be attrition. So I guess my question is, what is normally the how do we catch up? Because we're going to continue to be planting trees, but the trees continue. I mean, I know up in my district, a lot of the pine trees, it's just they've been so stressed from the heat. They're old trees. I understand why they're dying. They're dying on private property, so I know it's not just us. But there is attrition. So do we have some sort of a framework of like what number are we? How many do we normally? If it's not going to be that we can't calculate how hot it's going to be, but average, how many do we lose a year? So we'll know what this actual 6618 is going to net us at the end of 2031.
Mayor and council, so when I was doing this, I think the request was for the last 5-year data to be presented. So while we lost the 3255 in the last 5 years, our significant planting has been in the last 2 years since the plan started. So I think we are on the right track. It's just because you're comparing data that's 5 years to 2 years, it looks lopsided. I'm fairly confident we will exceed the 22,000 number that was presented in the plan.
Okay, thank you. Very good. And I would like to say, though, that the pine trees have died in the medians and the right-of-way, and I know we're going to talk about the right-of-way landscape plan, which is helping with that because we're moving stuff over to more drought-friendly landscaping. But our city staff has done a really good job of getting out there as quickly as possible to remove. Some of the trees are large, and you have to close down traffic lanes because they're in our right-of-way. So, I mean, it's not like somebody can just run out there and cut down a tree. Some of these trees are very, very large, and so I just want to thank staff for when myself or other residents report a dead tree, and as Councilmember Guzman said, they don't get replaced right away, but they are very good about getting out there and removing the dead trees, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
A couple things that I wanted to bring up. The pine trees is something, 10 years ago, I noticed it, and I had talked quite a bit about that. If it, in fact, is drought, if it's drought that allows what they call them, the beetles to come in there and infect the trees, I'm not exactly sure what the process is, but did the city ever get to a point where it said, look, we're just going to quit planting pine trees because they really struggle, and why waste all that effort and time for something that's not going to last? If it gets hotter, if global warming, as they call it, has something to do with this, did we ever say we're just done with pine trees? No, that's one question. And then secondly, I know that we have lost trees not because of failure of the trees growing, just the opposite, in fact. The trees have grown so well that they're breaking residences' fences and sidewalks, and that we actually have to go down there and destroy a good tree because it's done very, very well. So in those cases where we've had that happen, where we have sidewalks or fences, is there a way that we're going, you know what, let's not put a tree in here and have to deal with this in 15 years. Let's put some shrubs or hedges or something like that.
So, Mayor and Council, I'll answer both the questions. So the pine trees, a lot of these are relics of the past. So we no longer plant pine trees.
Okay.
So that was the presentation that we did to Council in 2023, that we were going to shift to more drought tolerant and native plant material. Then there's the other aspect that the mayor's brought up, which is the trees get too large for the limited space that exists between a sidewalk and a property wall of the adjacent property. In those instances, we've had to remove trees because there were safety concerns related to those trees possibly either falling onto the property or the wall, which has happened during storm events. And so there are instances where we have to take down trees. There is a thing called right tree, right place. So again, there are instances, like the mayor said, where if a tree is not a reasonable, cannot reasonably grow in that limited space, we are just planting shrubs. And I believe Peoria Avenue is one of those examples, west of 59th, where we've done that. Because the HOA property wall and the sidewalk, the gap is so small that we couldn't truly plant a tree that could safely grow and not cause damage to either the private property or our sidewalks.
Okay, and my final question, it was brought up earlier about palm trees being trees. Well, obviously they are trees. But did we ever put any thought into trees that won't require as much maintenance? Palm trees, you really got to stay on top of them, at least once a year. And if not, then you have froms going in the street or in people's backyards, or the little palm seeds going into swimming pools. Is there thought put into that as we plant stuff? I guess is my question.
Mayor and Council, yes, we no longer, at least in the street right of way, plant any palm trees. The palm trees that we have are the ones from the past. There might be an instance where there's a row of palms, and if we lose one palm in between, it may look odd to plant any other tree. But generally speaking, we are staying away from planting palm trees.
Yes, Mayor, just a clarifying question about the data. How much of these trees, especially on the urban forestry index, does it include the 1,185 acres of the Thunderbird Preserve, of the park, the conservation park?
Mayor and Council, I do not know that level of detail. We can look into it and get back with Mayor and Council in an email.
Yes, thank you. The reason is because I'd like to see what the data looks like without that inserted into it, because we have a lot of trees there and a lot of, and that would increase our percentage of our urban forestry inventory. And I understand it is a very important part of our city, but I just would like to make sure that our data isn't being skewed by including that massive conservation park.
So Mayor and Council, I am not sure if we can do that. We'll look into it because this data belongs to someone else, and I don't have the level of grasp on it at this point, but we'll get back with Mayor and Council.
Thank you. And then the last thing is there are 5 historic or big trees at Mission Park. And I know that we have talked about consensus to have staff look at moving Fire Station 154 to Mission Park. So I'd like to just state for the record that I'd like to keep those trees there as much as possible, and finding ways where we could put the fire station and other places of Mission Park that doesn't disturb or destroy those really beautiful trees. Thank you.
One final thing, this morning on my way to work, the linear park, I guess we call it, that runs parallel to Grand Canal and Cardinals Way, there are multiple dead trees along with a lot of dead grass. So there's obviously an irrigation situation there. I know you guys are already aware of that, but I'm just saying it publicly. That way, if anybody says to me, why didn't you bring it up? I did.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor and council, yes, there currently is an irrigation replacement project going on. It just recently started the construction phase of replacing the entire irrigation system along Grand Canal Linear Park, mainly to address the challenges with growing turf and trees in that particular area.
Very good. Okay, item number 4.
Council item of special interest, right-of-way landscape restoration plan.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to present an update on the right-of-way landscape restoration plan. This slide was originally presented to Council in January of 2023, and it received a Council consensus at that workshop. There are 2 tables on this slide. One is a catch-up table that's on the top, and there's a keep-up table that's on the bottom. The top is the capital kind of funding that's being discussed, and the bottom one is operating budget kind of subject that's being discussed. To the bottom left corner is information regarding budget that was not on the presentation that you received in 2023, but it's actual budget information that we have received. We just added that to this slide. So the catch-up table on the top has 4 rows. Row 1 is in green, shows what was available funding at that point of the presentation. Row 2 identified funding that was needed to perform additional catch-up activities to reduce the number of years it would take to bring the city's right-of-way into updated condition. Row 3 identified the additional funding needed for the 3 miles of grass medians that were to be converted to xeriscape medians at 1 mile each for each of the first 3 fiscal years. Row 4 showed the net difference between available funding and the total catch-up funding needed, so we could list this amount in the CIP. The keep-up table at the bottom has 6 rows. Row 1 identifies available budget for keep-up of right-of-way landscape as of FY 2023. Row 2 identifies additional ongoing keep-up budget that would be needed. And row 3 identified existing funding available for catch-up purposes. Row 4 identified additional ongoing catch-up budget that would be needed. Row 5 identified the total ongoing budget that would be needed. This would include catch-up and keep-up activities. The last row shows total budget that was available in fiscal year 2023 and the additional funding if provided. So the information to the bottom left is basically the row 5 of the keep-up or the bottom table, the $473,000 over the 7 years. That is what is being included in the operating budget each year as a supplemental budget. So FY 24, 25, and 26 is in the budget, which is how we got to $202,716. The right-of-way landscape plan was presented to council, as I stated earlier, in January of 2023. The plan involved low water use and drought-tolerant plant material. The plan identified was for fiscal years 2024 through 2030. The new water crisis responsive standards that received council consensus for right-of-way landscaping involve drought-tolerant trees every 30 feet, 3 drought-tolerant shrubs in between the trees, water harvesting features, smart irrigation systems, and decorative rock. Resolution number R24-04 was approved by council for the acceptance of grant funding from Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, a state agency also known as WIFA, in the amount of $3 million on January 23rd, 2024. Original plan identified 35 miles of right-of-way to be restored. Since then, additional segments were added to the restoration plan in the amount of 10 miles, which makes the current plan 45 miles. This map shows two colors. The lines in blue show projects that were completed in FY 2024, which add up to 14 miles. The lines in red show work that was completed in FY 2025, which is 3 miles. And you'll see two boxes highlighting 67th Avenue and 75th Avenue between Union Hills and Beardsley. These were the grass medians that were identified for the first 3 fiscal years, and these are the first 2 of the 3 that were completed. FY 2025 number is significantly lower than FY 2024 because of the WIFA grant that we received. The grant required us to go out and reissue the procurement of contracts so that federal language that needs to be included in the contract could be included. This map shows work that has been identified for FY 2026. We are halfway through the fiscal year. We are confident we can finish the 16 miles that are identified here. And that includes 1 mile of grass median along Union Hills between 67th and 75th Avenues. As noted earlier in the trees presentation, FY 27 through 30, we are only doing 12 miles of restoration. That would happen in the first couple of years, and then we would be focusing on planting trees where some have been lost in the past. Overall, with all the projects between FY 24 and FY 25, we planted over 6,000 shrubs and 561 trees. We've also either replaced or restored over 134,000 square feet or linear feet of irrigation. We've also installed 14 new smart controllers. These smart controllers help reduce water usage through smart watering and also reduce wastage by identifying leaks so that staff can go and address them. As noted earlier, 2 of the 3 miles of the grass medians are complete. The pictures to the right show before and after of 75th Avenue grass medians project. As noted earlier, Union Hills is scheduled to be completed this year. This slide shows 71st Avenue between Claremont Street and Ocotillo Road. It shows the pictures of before and after. There are a few things that I'd like to point out in this on this slide. Picture number 4 shows the water harvesting feature that council approved as part of our standards. And this median also has a electrical overhead utility. And so the plant material that's being used here is appropriate for that kind of a location. On this slide, Mayor and Council, you see the 43rd Avenue between Royal Palm Road and Alice Avenue. In this instance, we installed new irrigation lines and we planted new plant material. And on this slide, you see the before and after Mayor and Council of 67th Avenue between Bell Road and Union Hills. During the course of these projects that have been completed, we have learned some significant lessons in coordination and contract management. Coordination is needed between various city and private utility and development projects, along with state project along Loop 101 between 75th Avenue and 51st Avenue. In terms of contract management, we have learned that we need to extend our warranty period for plant material to 1 year to ensure our contractors and staff are on the same page in ensuring that the plant material is established for the long run. We have also learned to work with different plant types and sizes based on the availability of the material in the valley. Overall, these experiences have pointed to the need for flexibility in design and construction scheduling to make sure we achieve the long-term goals of sustainable right-of-way landscape. And like Vice Mayor pointed out earlier, the removal of some of these large trees require contractors and their equipment that can handle much larger trees, and scheduling that to make sure we minimize the impact on traveling public and also other projects that are in the area. We have also had notable successes, such as use of smart irrigation controllers that have reduced water usage. The integration of grant funding has helped us offset the rising cost of material and labor, while also allowing us to address additional mileage in the city. With all of this, we can maintain the schedule and budget of the project towards a sustainable, long-term right-of-way landscape. In conclusion, I will note that the planned projects are on track and on budget. We will continue to make progress on the plan as previously presented to council. We will also continue to evaluate opportunities for new technologies in an effort towards water conservation. We will also continue to provide project updates to council in the future. With that, I will open the presentation for any questions mayor and council may have.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the presentation, and I, in my district and in other districts that I've traveled, I've really noticed these improvements. So thank you for all the work you're doing there. One thing I noticed in most of these projects is that the trees seem very close together and close to the bushes, and as they grow, I see them just running into each other. Did we anticipate that we're going to lose some of these trees and that we won't replant them, or what is your strategy when you put these trees and bushes in along the roadway?
Mayor and council, the general strategy is the 30-foot spacing that was identified in the standard that was presented to council. Now, there could be unique local situations, but I will also revisit with staff to see if there are instances where there are shrubs closely. We've reduced our shrub standard from 5 between trees to 3 so that we could let them grow a little more. So it could also be an instance where we have older landscape mixed in with the newer stuff. Okay.
Mayor, if I may, just one last question. It's based on your plan costs. Back in 2023, the catch-up budget of $550,000, that was what was proposed at that time. Is that correct?
Mayor and council, the $550,000 that was identified in the table, that's the top row in green, that was the available budget at that point.
That before we added additional?
Mayor and council, that is correct.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand that when you talk about this difference, the $892,000 for 24 and $892 for 25, that is, when you say catch up needed, I mean, those years are already gone. So what do you mean by that?
Mayor and council, this was a plan that was presented in January of 2023. So back then we were in fiscal year 2023. So we were presenting a plan for fiscal years 24 through 2030.
Okay.
So
this was the plan you presented then. That's what I want to make sure. Okay. And did we fund that to that level that you were needing?
Mayor and council, that is correct. Yes, you have funded us. The bottom line there where it says net difference, that's what has been programmed in the CIP for the right of a landscape.
Okay, so we have fully funded your needs for the program.
Mayor and council, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to staff. This was an item, council had a special interest of mine years ago, because I mean, I think we all noticed, with the recession and the financial situation the city was in, our right-of-way were really falling into neglected situations. And while we were focusing a lot of energy and time on parks, which I'm glad we're doing, but to me, right-of-way, every single person who travels through our city, whether they're a resident, a business, prospective business, whoever they are, sees that. And I think it says a lot about the city. So I'm very pleased how this program has been going. I'm hopeful that, if you look at the map, even when we conclude this first phase of this, we have a lot of work still to do. I know it's going to depend on on what kind of funding is available. I know we've got great staff that's continuing to pursue grants and that sort of thing. I'm hopeful that we can just, once we finish this phase, we can just continue on with the next phase, because we're getting really good results. I mean, residents are really starting to notice the difference in the right-of-ways. I know some of the people were not happy about the grass being removed, but we got just as many complaints, I think, and I know Councilmember Melner knows this, about the watering the grass as we did when because people would drive by, it would spray on their cars, and it was incredibly difficult to try to maintain that grass in the middle of the street. It just, and it used a lot of water. It just really wasn't the best situation. And now that people have seen the design that the staff has presented and is delivering, they're happy with it. When you drive to it, you still see the green. You get the end caps on the end of the median. So it really hasn't changed the look of the city where we had the greenscape in the median. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness there. So I just want to say thank you. I think it's been great. Hopefully we're in a situation financially that, we can continue on when we come to the conclusion of this. I think it's really, really important. The curb appeal of our city matters to residents, businesses, prospective businesses, everyone. Not everyone sees our parks, but everyone sees our right-of-way. So I think it's really important. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So one question that I have is about Grand Avenue. Obviously, as a new council member, my question is, what is our responsibility for Grand Avenue, and what is the state's responsibility since it's a state highway?
Mayor and council, approximately 10 to 15 years ago, the city, in partnership with ADOT, did a project along Grand Avenue to do access control and beautification. And so that included landscaping along Grand Avenue to the standards that city wanted and not what state does. So at that point, with that, the city took on the maintenance responsibility for the landscape that's along Grand Avenue, which is why you see that as a green line on our map.
Thank you. And yes, Grand Avenue is very important, especially in my district. The reason I bring that up is because I believe, the state should have some responsibility in terms of funding that. And I would also, personally, I appreciate that we have Glendale Avenue in 2026 as well. But I would like to see some of the money used for Grand Avenue for some of our other more local arterial streets. Of course, if I'm thinking about my district, then it would be Bethany Home Road. And then my other question is, in terms of the future, what type of budget needs will we need in the future? Will there be any requests for additional funding in the next fiscal years, or are we going to wait until the 7-year plan is over and then do a new plan?
So Mayor and Council, we will be requesting the $60-some thousand a year, $67,572 a year in the coming next 4 fiscal years of budget. So you'll see a supplemental for that in those 4 fiscal years. And with that, we have a existing budget for continuing to do this kind of work. So I can't speak for 4.5 years from now, but we will keep you appraised. We'll be coming back with these presentations. So if there's a reason for us to ask for additional funding, we will use the budget process as an opportunity to bring that up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
For Guzman.
Earlier you had mentioned something about work that you were going to be doing along the linear canal there, which is in the Yucca district.
Mayor and Councilmember Guzman, I believe that was Parks Director John Kennedy who said that.
Yeah. The question was, I saw some trucks down there the other day, closer to 75th Avenue. You mentioned something about irrigation, an irrigation project? Because I had a couple of residents contact me, about the grass and how it's not being kept up. How long is that project going to take to complete?
So, Mayor and Council, yes, the project along Grand Canal Linear is a complete irrigation replacement. So they're replacing all the pumps, the main line, and all the other irrigation lines. They just started the actual construction phase here within the last month. I don't have an exact end timeline, but I think at least 6 to 7 months for completion, off the top of my head, is the expectation.
And so that should be able to bring the grass back to life, all of that. Because I know I've had several residents in the Yucca District complain about how it doesn't look green like it used to, and the dead trees and the shrubs and all that. But it's because of that, the irrigation?
Mayor, Councilmember, yes, the majority of the challenges of growing turf and trees, keeping the trees alive in that area were from lack of proper irrigation. So this should help address that.
So we're
issue
looking at
moving
about
forward.
6 or 7 months?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, city manager's report.
We'll roll our report. Hello, everyone. Well, it's hard to believe, but Thanksgiving is almost here, and we have so much to be grateful for in Glendale. We're especially grateful for our amazing employees. That's why we dedicated November to celebrating Employee Gratitude Month. All month long, we've shared videos featuring city leaders thanking their teams, plus games, activities, and prize giveaways. It's our way of recognizing the incredible people who make Glendale a great place to live, work, and play. Our recreation team brought spooky fun to life for Halloween. The Glendale Community Center became a wizard's workshop for potion making, where families mix glittery concoctions. O'Neill Recreation Center welcomed over 300 guests for Halloween night, then celebrated Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, with face painting and floral headbands. At Foothills, kids enjoyed a pumpkin paint night and Halloween arts and crafts. The Adult Center wrapped up the week with a Halloween luncheon full of costumes, dancing, and live music. Glendale firefighters are protecting their health and helping others at the same time. More than 130 firefighters donated plasma during our Plasma Recharge event. Firefighters nationwide face higher cancer risk, partly due to PFAS, the forever chemicals found in their blood. Donating plasma helps lower those levels. The plasma is processed and cleaned and then used to save lives. Congratulations to the Communications Department. 3 of the team's videographers brought home a Regional Emmy Award. They were honored for outstanding video editing on Forged by Fire, a half-hour documentary that takes viewers behind the scenes of the Glendale Fire Department. This prestigious award recognizes the best in broadcasting in the entire Southwest and Rocky Mountain areas. Great work, Mike Harris, Luis DeCinto, Jessica Mintz, and the entire team that contributed to this excellent project. A new crosswalk is making 67th and Montebello Avenue safer. We recently installed a high-intensity activated crosswalk which lights up when pedestrians need to cross safely. A deadly pedestrian crash inspired a local business owner to request this new signal. Funded through the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, this new signal is a big step in making streets safer for everyone. Our solid waste drivers are turning routine routes into moments of joy. Driver Chris Gonzalez came up with the idea to hand out small toy garbage trucks to kids who come to watch pickups. What started as a simple gesture has become a fun tradition that brings smiles to families and drivers alike. It's a great reminder of how meaningful our everyday work can be. Thanks for watching and happy Thanksgiving. I'll be back with more updates soon.
You have nothing.
I have nothing.
All right, moving on. Council items of special interest. We make this available to each council member to indicate topics they'd like to have discussed in the future. Councilmember Conscious, you're first.
Yes, Mayor. This morning I drove on Bethany Home Road, and I drive Bethany Home Road between 43rd Avenue and 51st Avenue almost every day. And my council item of special interest is to evaluate the traffic patterns and to propose to the council a safety corridor between 43rd Avenue and 51st Avenue on Bethany Home Road. And also the entire road needs to be redone, needs to be milled down and rebuilt completely. So that is my council item of special interest, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Guzman?
My button. Yes, I have one. As you know, we had the Tamale Festival on November the 8th. It was a very successful one, I'm happy to report. We had between 4,000 and 5,000 people attend, and we estimate that the vendors sold between 5,000 and 6,000 tamales. That's a lot of tamales. And I want to also congratulate the vendor, Chio's Tamales. They won the award for the best tasting tamales there, thanks to Mayor.
They were, too.
He got to taste every one of the vendors. My council of item special interest is I would like to make this a annual event for the city of Glendale, and I'd like to see, I'm new at this, so what it would take to create this event as a City of Glendale annual event, kind of like Glendale Glitters.
Thank you. Councilmember Mellor?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to request that the council discuss in the immediate future the role of our bond committee and get some specifics on how we want that bond committee to move forward in preparation for future bonds. It seems like in the past we were a little bit behind on getting the bond committee prepped and ready and engaged in the bond process. And I know we've talked about the potential of doing a bond in the future. And so I wanted to have a discussion by the council as what our expectations are from that bond committee, what the role of the bond committee would be, and how they would participate in moving forward the potential of a bond within our city. Thank you.
Mr. Mellor, if you don't mind, I'd like to add to your request. I noticed that there are some other people that ran bonds that were able to ask the questions differently than the way we've been able to ask them. And I'd like a more detailed report along with what you're requesting, how the city can word it in a way that doesn't sound like we're going to raise your taxes, yes or no, because there are other places that word it different. So if that's okay with you to add that to that.
Yes.
And then with that, then maybe some discussion on, because the city, no, I guess I can't go there, so I'm not going to go there. Yeah, you know where I was going, don't
You're scaring him.
Yeah, okay, we're going to stop right here. Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to be included on Council Member Melner's Council of Special Interest.
Okay.
Item of special
All right.
interest.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to staff to bring forward a discussion on how we're going to move forward with the Ops Campus. The bonds did not pass. I know that there's stuff calendared in our CIP, so I think it's time we have a discussion on how we're going to move forward with that and plan ahead for that. Thank you. And I agree with that, Mayor. You know, this council adopted a resolution, literally adopted a resolution that we will not issue bonds if it'll raise taxes. So I think we need to do a better job of telling that story to the residents. Thank you.
All right, and then for me, I actually do have a request and an update from staff on the project outcomes for various performance-based contracts that we already have implemented at city facilities that are showing any savings or improvements in efficiency that the city has realized or will realize. Other than that, we're done. Motion to go into executive session.
So
I move
moved.
that we go into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Here, you guys have it, do have it. That motion passes. With that, there being no further business, the council meeting is going to be in recess.